Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about combining exercises. I just did one of these in the last video for back and biceps, so let's talk a little bit about chest and triceps and understand kind of the functions of these muscles and what movements will build the most muscle in them. And I actually have a very, very simple selection today, but when you look at it closely, if these exercises are performed correctly, they are enough to fully develop the pectorals and the triceps in combination. And I'm not saying some other stuff can't be helpful. And again, I want to be clear, we're still talking movement patterns, and it's not always about the specific exercise so much as the function that it does. So you guys are going to notice I do a wide grip bench press. Of course, I did a training max there before the rep work. So I did something, this is all from the same workout, so it was like an easy 315 training max, obviously not my max, with a long pause. And then I did, again afterwards, 12s with the 225. But notice the thing going on here. It's a very, very wide grip. And there's a certain case to be made for closer grip benching for people with different shoulder pathologies, for certain leverages, advantages in powerlifting and stuff. But at the end of the day, you're going to get more pectoral development by going wide enough that those forearms are either splayed out at a very slight angle or at a 90 degree at the bottom. Because at the end of the day, lengthened positions are, if we're going to break it down, are probably worth the most in terms of muscle growth. I'm not saying other positions don't matter, mid-range, shortened position, but at the end of the day, that's what really matters. And a lot of guys shortchange their chest development because they're not getting a stretch at the bottom of the bench. And then those same people, what happens? Oh, the bench press isn't a good chest exercise. I can tell you right now that without even seeing their bench, I can tell you a person has no clue how to perform a bench press for their chest if they say anything other than the bench press is an amazing chest exercise. Notice I did not say good. I said amazing. Amazing. All right, it's about getting the stretch at the bottom. It's also about wrist stacking. Okay, notice that the way I had my wrist stacked on those, the bar is directly above my wrist bone, not cocked back in the hand. Okay? And then that is kept directly above the elbow. Also a tip right there, people who have shoulder pain from benching, that's usually an issue. Bouncing it off their chest, all sorts of other things. It's benching incorrectly. Ego lifting. Because notice you didn't see me do any ego lifting on the benching. It's a nice, clean 315 training max. It's not on a platform. Why do we need to grind? A 90% lift will carry over to you on the platform later if you're going to power lift. All right, same thing with the rep work. Took it to a nice 1 rep in reserve. All the reps clean and smooth. Okay? Stop ego lifting on the bench, and then all of a sudden it turns into a fantastic exercise with a low injury risk. You got to check your ego. All right, up next you'll notice that I do an incline bench afterwards. I can't always touch my chest on an incline, especially when I take a nice wide grip. It puts the most stretch on the chest. It's, again, just my arm length and everything else. But the stretch on the chest is phenomenal. So what does this bring to the table? We're not going to get into shoulder development, but it is a better shoulder exercise. But when we start talking of chest, we need to be clear. The flat bench absolutely works the upper chest. We know this from both EMG and hypertrophy studies. All right, so anyone who says it doesn't work the upper chest is wrong. However, it tends to develop the whole chest relatively balanced with maybe some small bias towards the lower chest. And most of us, since we make flat work our primary, all right, most of us do, and that's normal. People say, I'm the exception. Yeah, but you're the exception. But a lot of those guys who are then that exception, they also end up having no lower chest either. They don't look thick. But most of us are going to do that. So accordingly, just to get a little bit better of a look, to make sure that upper chest fills out, Also that we get that bit of, when we're leaner, that bit of separation in that upper chest. A little bit of bias towards the upper chest is a good thing. This is where the incline fits in. Also, what is it I have often said? The best exercise for any muscle is to work the same muscle from two different angles. Like 2 good exercises at 2 different angles will always be better than the quote-unquote best exercise you can find. It's just how it works because of the differences in the fiber recruitment, muscle fiber recruitment through a muscle. Okay, proximal and distal and recruitment, all this stuff. It's a good idea to do 2 movements for a muscle you really care about. All right, this fits the bill. These angles are different enough that we're going to get a very, very good balanced development out of it. If you push these 2 movements hard, you can develop a big, well-balanced chest. Absolutely. It will get the job done. So then afterwards, what do I finish up with? You see me doing a tricep extension. In this case, a standard skull crusher with an easy curl bar. Now, I will be the first to say I think this is arguably just about the best tricep exercise you can do for complete development. It can be very tough on the tendons. You may need to spend some time building tendons up in your elbows to be able to do it safely. You also need to be very careful with load. Notice I did a 20 rep set there. There's a reason for that. This is an exercise that when you start going too heavy, can absolutely wreak havoc on your elbow tendons and elbow tendonitis. All right, here's the thing that it brings difference to the table. Extensions work long head more. Bench pressing has been shown, even in hypertrophy studies, to very well develop the lateral head down near the elbow, right? Outer head towards the elbow. Tends to develop it extremely well, better than most extensions. The long head gets neglected. That big horseshoe at the top. All right, adding an extension to that balances it out. This has actually been studied in hypertrophy studies where they've done exercises separate and they combine the 2 together and tracked muscle growth of a bench and then an extension like this. This balances it out. This helps balance out and fully develop the tricep after you're benching. And be aware, even a closed grip bench press, a great tricep exercise, but it has the same issue you run into with the flat bench. It will bias the development towards the lateral head. That long head is really the largest of the 3 though. So you got to keep that in mind. If you want balanced development, you're going to need to do something that puts us into a bit of a lengthened position. All right, and the extension does that. And notice I rock it back. Whenever I'm doing that extension, I rock it back towards my face at the bottom. Why? We're putting that little bit of extra stretch for complete tricep development. So this balances it all out. And assuming you're doing any other long head work through other big movements like pull-ups or pullovers or any of that, that's also going to add you a second one probably there, and you're probably pretty well covered on a lot of your back work for that additional long head. So that pretty much sums it up. These movement patterns will help you fully develop the pecs and the triceps.